Volcanoes have been with humanity for as long as we've been around. And throughout our entire history they've shaped our planet, reshaped our civilizations, even inspired many of our myths and legends. In modern times, while their power is still feared, volcanoes are also appreciated for the geological benefits that they bring to us. In this episode of What If, let's explore one of the most explosive topics in science, discuss what might happen if a supervolcano were to erupt today. But first, let me tell you about this year's sponsor, Brilliant. Brilliant is an online learning platform with thousands of lessons in science, computer science, and math. And every Brilliant course is interactive with engaging visuals and straightforward explanations. This helps you learn complex concepts by doing and helps you remember what you learned. So it's fun and effective. Some of my favorites are calculus and logic, but there's so much more to choose from. With new courses added each month, Brilliant helps you learn at your own pace and on the go. They offer a high school curriculum that prepares students for AP exams or those who want to jumpstart their college education. They even offer college-level courses with college credit through partnerships with various universities. And now, with the Brilliant Basics program, kids ages 10 to 14 can learn important STEM skills in a fun way. Their first-ever coding course teaches the basics of computer programming with visual puzzles that grow increasingly more challenging. Kids get to create their own programs and learn how technology works from the inside out. All courses come with unlimited practice problems, so you can master the concepts before moving on. Brilliant is the best way to build learning into your life. Start for free today with the link below. Now let's get back to What If. Yellowstone National Park is home to more than just bison, bears, and beautiful scenery. It's also home to the Yellowstone supervolcano, one of the largest and most powerful volcanoes on Earth. The Yellowstone supervolcano isn't actually one single volcano, but rather a collection of 3 overlapping calderas, the largest of which is over 43 miles wide. Every once in a while, the forces of nature decide to have a little party down there and cause an eruption, which is where you and I hope that you and I will be to witness it. Of course, if it happens when we're asleep, then we won't be able to see it, and instead we'll have to deal with the aftermath. And since Yellowstone is the largest volcano in the contiguous United States, its impact would be far-reaching. How big are we talking? To answer that question, let's look at a scale known as the Volcanic Explosivity Index, or the VEI. The VEI is calculated based on 8 different factors, including the height of the eruption column, volume of material ejected, and the length of time over which the eruption occurs. Based on these factors, each eruption is assigned a number between 1 and 8. With 8 being the worst-case scenario. For reference, Mount St. Helens, one of the most famous volcanoes in the world, had a VEI rating of 5. Its eruption in 1980 was one of the deadliest in U.S. history, and caused over 50 deaths and billions of dollars in property damage. By contrast, the 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora in Indonesia had a VEI rating of 7, making it the most violent eruption in recorded human history. This eruption killed over 100,000 people and caused global temperatures to drop by almost 2 degrees Celsius for several years. Now, Yellowstone's most recent eruption in the Pleistocene epoch had a VEI rating of 8, the highest possible rating. But it's not all about the size. The type of eruption also matters. There are 2 main types of eruptions, pyroclastic and effusive. Pyroclastic eruptions involve explosions that hurl ash, gas, and solid fragments called tephra into the air. Ash is made up of pulverized rock, glass shards, and unmelted rock fragments, and depending on the amount of water present, it can travel great distances and remain suspended in the air for months. Pyroclastic flows, on the other hand, are extremely dangerous. These are currents of hot gas and solid matter that flow down the sides of a volcano during an eruption. Traveling at speeds of up to 100 miles per hour, these flows can incinerate everything in their path. On the other hand, effusive eruptions involve lava flows that ooze out of the sides of a volcano. These types of eruptions are typically less violent but can still pose a threat to life and property. So what would happen if a Yellowstone supereruption were to occur today? First off, we'd need to know whether it would be pyroclastic or effusive. Researchers at the University of California, Los Angeles used computer models to simulate both scenarios. They found that a pyroclastic eruption would send 1,000 cubic kilometers of debris into the air, much like the 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora. An effusive eruption, on the other hand, would release 1,000 cubic kilometers of lava onto the ground. In terms of immediate destruction, an effusive eruption would be significantly more devastating. Lava flows could reach areas near Yellowstone within days, destroying everything in their path. On the flip side, ash and tephra from a pyroclastic eruption would spread much farther, blanketing much of the western United States and Canada in ash. The good news is that both scenarios would only affect a small number of people directly. The bad news is that the effects of either eruption wouldn't stay localized. Pyroclastic eruptions are notable for their ash clouds, which can contain fine particles that remain suspended in the atmosphere for months. This would lead to decreased crop yields and increased temperatures across the northern hemisphere. Unfortunately though, ash clouds can also cause respiratory problems. Studies of the Mount Pinatubo eruption in the Philippines showed that ash particles can travel as far as 1,600 miles away, and exposure to them has been linked to respiratory illnesses. Then there's the issue of acid rain. Sulfur dioxide released by a supereruption can react with water and oxygen in the atmosphere to form sulfuric acid. This acid can then fall to the ground in the form of acid rain, snow, or fog, damaging crops and polluting waterways. It can also increase the acidity of soil, killing off vegetation and leaching essential nutrients. A study published in the journal PNAS estimated that the 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora caused global temperatures to drop by as much as 1.5 degrees Celsius. This cooling effect would likely disrupt weather patterns around the world and lead to widespread crop failures and famine. So we've established that a pyroclastic eruption would be worse for the rest of the country. How about the surrounding area? Well, immediately following the eruption, an estimated 200,000 people would have to be evacuated from the surrounding area. Roads would quickly become impassable due to falling ash and debris, and while the initial shock wave from the explosion would only affect a small area, the pyroclastic flows that follow could extend outward for tens of miles. Here's the thing, because of its location in the middle of a national park, Yellowstone isn't close to any major population centers, but that might not always have been the case. About 130 million years ago, the Huckleberry Ridge eruption of the Yellowstone supervolcano occurred at a time when the Rocky Mountains were still forming. This eruption was so massive that it actually left a large caldera in what is now the center of the North American continent. And it wasn't until the Rocky Mountains began to rise up that the area became a shallow basin, eventually becoming the modern-day Yellowstone. At the time, this region was part of the Laramide Basin and was home to a flourishing ecosystem that included small mammals, birds, and insects. The heat from the eruption sterilized the land and destroyed all life forms in the area. When life began to return, it started from microscopic organisms that migrated in from surrounding regions. Eventually, plants and animals returned, but this caused significant changes to the genetic makeup of populations. Smaller populations that were isolated in the region evolved independently from larger populations in surrounding areas. As the Rockies continued to rise, the landscape changed again. New rivers formed, lakes filled with glacial meltwater appeared, and forests replaced grasslands. As recently as 10,000 years ago, the Black Sand Basin was home to glaciers, but the warming climate caused these glaciers to melt and retreat. Today they're gone, leaving behind stunning hot springs and geysers. This dynamic environment supports a diverse array of plant and animal life, including a variety of threatened and endangered species such as the grizzly bear and gray wolf. However, there is evidence that suggests that Yellowstone's unique biodiversity may soon be at risk once again. Recent studies suggest that earthquakes in the region may be increasing in frequency and intensity. Could these earthquakes be a sign of another supereruption? And if so, what would that mean for the delicate balance of life in Yellowstone and the surrounding areas? As researchers continue to study the geology of the Yellowstone supervolcano, they hope to learn more about the potential risks of another supereruption. The good news is that scientists are constantly monitoring the volcano for any signs of activity. They use a variety of methods to do this, including measuring the frequency and strength of earthquakes in the area, looking for changes in the shape of the volcano, and tracking the movement of hotspots in the region. If they detect any unusual activity, they can alert local officials who can then take the necessary precautions. While it's impossible to predict when or if a supereruption will occur, scientists are working hard to better understand the volcano and mitigate any potential risks. Hopefully, they'll be able to keep Yellowstone's natural beauty safe for generations to come. Now, this is just one of the many fascinating topics that Brilliant has helped me explore. Like I said before, Brilliant is an online learning platform with thousands of lessons in science, computer science, and math. If you love science and tech stories like this, then check out Brilliant's course on astrophysics. The course covers topics such as special relativity, black holes, and the expanding universe. You'll learn how astronomers measure the age of the universe, discover the evidence for dark matter, and explore the concept of multiverses. After taking this course, you'll have a deeper understanding of our place in the cosmos. So, what are you waiting for? Start learning today with the link below.